I make it to the other side of cancer, I would do everything in my power to live the rest of my life, no matter how long it is or short it is, as meaningfully and joyously as possible. Hi, Parul Banka here, storyteller and keynote speaker. I had what I would call a pretty normal life. I did things that most people do in their life. So I went to school, I went to college, I went to the uni, joined a corporate job, worked for performance ratings, worked for promotions, and it was a good life. It was a normal life. Hi Septa, hi Birdie, thanks for joining. And I loved that life. And that's how my life went on until the week of my 34th birthday, when bam, the word cancer was dropped in my life. I was diagnosed with the most aggressive kind of breast cancer in the week of my 34th birthday. And so I did what I had to do to get through cancer. But honestly, for the first 6 months, I didn't really know if I would still be here. Hi Murag, hi Jill, thanks for joining. For the first 6 months, I didn't really know if I would still be here. And so during those 6 months, I made a promise to myself that if I make it to the other side of cancer, I would do everything in my power to live the rest of my life as meaningfully and joyously as possible. And I do believe that there was something very powerful about this promise, because it just kept me going. It made me get up every day and do what I had to do to get through cancer. And then I did get to the other side of cancer. Yes! And now was the time to keep the promise that I had made to myself during those 6 months every single day. So what did I do? I had a long, hard look at the life that I had been living. And hindsight is such a beautiful thing. With the benefit of hindsight, I realized that although my pre-cancer life was normal and it felt like a good life, it was pretty much a life on autopilot. Pretty much an autopilot. Yes, that's how I was living. And so one big thing that I decided to do after cancer was to come off my autopilot mode and start living life consciously. And change in work was a huge consequence of trying to live life consciously. So for as long as I can remember, I was somebody who was passionate about helping people. I was passionate about evaluating whether what I was doing was meaningful in my life, whether I had enough meaning and joy in my life. And therefore, in my post-cancer life, one thing that I decided to do consciously was to pick up work, and only pick up work that would help me bring in this meaning, this joy into my life on an everyday basis. So I decided to step away from the corporate world and set up my own coaching practice, because helping people succeed as a coach was something that brought me immense joy. I grew up in an environment that I would call diverse, but necessarily not inclusive. And so I saw these people coexisting peacefully, but they still existed in their own individual silos. So people were divided on the basis of different demographic factors. They were divided on the basis of class. They were divided on the basis of the skin of their color. They were divided on the basis of religion, and they were divided on the basis of caste. That's the world I grew up in. And yes, everybody coexisted peacefully. Nobody called out names to anyone, and yet they were in separate silos. And there was something very interesting that I observed and learned while I grew up in that environment. What I learned and what I observed by looking at the world around me was that all these people who coexisted but were not necessarily inclusive of each other's, they didn't really embrace each other's differences, Because of all these differences, there was an unsaid or even a said hierarchy socially. So based on these different factors that divided people, there was a hierarchy in the sense that there were people who were higher up in the hierarchy and there were people who were lower down in the hierarchy. And it was a very interesting social dynamics to observe. So people who were higher up didn't see these people who were lower down in the hierarchy. And people who were lower down in the hierarchy didn't believe that it was their place to be where these higher up people were. Why? Because these people had been conditioned to believe that they were smaller, less worthy over a period of decades, over a period of centuries. So what really happened was these people who were up here were not seeing and hearing people here because they were down here. And people who were here said, oh yeah, don't hear me. Don't see me because I don't deserve to be seen. And I was somebody who was watching this dynamics and I said, this is not right. This is just not right because, hey, this person is not seeing this person and this person is saying, yeah, that's what I deserve. Now, back then, I didn't really know what it meant, but it didn't feel right. And as an 11-year-old young girl growing up in this environment, I made the decision that I would not subscribe to the idea that people should go through the motions of life without being seen and heard. That was my decision 30 years ago. And so, as a coach, when I decided to set up my own coaching practice, I drew upon this passion, this thing about helping people be seen and heard, something that I had always been passionate about. And I said that as a coach, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to help people be seen and heard through the power of their personal stories. So for me, storytelling and speaking are tools that help me achieve a bigger objective. And that objective is to help people be seen and heard. As a coach, I understand that when people don't feel seen and heard, it impacts their worthiness because it keeps them small. They tend to believe that they aren't big enough or important enough or worthy enough, and so they just end up playing small all their lives. And I stand against that concept. So that's the work I do. As a coach, I help people be seen and heard. And the interesting thing is, when it comes to helping people being seen and heard, there are two important components of it. So the first component is helping people see and hear themselves. Because there is no way that you will have the courage to go and share your story with the world, with the rest of the world, if you don't believe that it's a worthy story. If you believe within yourself that you don't deserve to be seen or heard because you are not good enough, you're not worthy enough, or you're not big enough or not important enough, there is no way that you would have the courage to go out and share your story. So helping people be seen and heard has two components, helping them see and hear themselves. That's where the coaching aspect comes in. And then helping them with their storytelling and speaking skills so that they can go and share their story to be seen and heard with the rest of the world, before the rest of the world. But that brings me to a very important point. Why stories? Why do stories? Why can't we as professionals just go and tell people what we do? Why storytelling? Well, I would say we live in a world where most information is available, or I should say a lot of information is available for free and at the click of a mouse. And therefore, information is not a superpower anymore. Connection is. Stories help us build that connection. We also need to understand that people do not buy ideas, products, and services. People buy those ideas, products, and services from people they know, like, and trust. And stories help us build that know, like, and trust factor through connection. Therefore, as a business owner or as a coach, when you go out and share your story, when you share your message in the form of a story, you don't just give people information. No, you connect with people because they are able to put a face to all that information. And that is why stories are so powerful. And that is the reason why when we sell through stories, while we are really selling, it doesn't come across as salesy or pushy or icky. Because hey, nobody likes being sold to. I don't like being sold to. You don't like being sold to. Nobody likes it. And that is the power of sharing our stories. So if stories are so amazing, you might ask me, why do people not go and share them? What really stops them from sharing their story? And I want to share with you the biggest objection that people have when it comes to sharing their story or their stories with the world outside. Hi Mariam, thanks for joining. So the biggest thing, the biggest belief that stops people from sharing their story with their audience is because they have this innate belief that their story is not extraordinary enough. The belief that their story is ordinary, the belief that their story is just a normal story is what stops most people from going out and sharing their story with the people. So here is an example. Let's say you are a wellness coach. So you can obviously tell people step 1, 2, 3 on how to transform your wellness, how to become healthier, or whatever aspect of wellness you cover. If you are somebody who helps people put their can-do shoes, you can give them people 1, 2, 3 steps. If you're a confidence coach, you can give my top 5 steps to become a more confident person. Yes, and obviously there is value in doing it. But what you can also do is you can weave in that information into the form of a story and give it to people so that people connect with it. There is more engagement, there is information, and through your own story of how you have achieved transformation for other people as well as for yourself, you can inspire them and you can persuade them to take the action you want them to take. Let's break down the story that I shared with you in the beginning of this presentation and see how this concept really is applicable. So you heard that I have what I can call as a cancer story. Now, do you know how many people there are all over the world who get diagnosed with cancer every year? Well, in the year 2018, there were more than 17 million people who were newly diagnosed with cancer. 17 million people. So these many people had cancer stories, and we aren't even counting their families, we aren't even counting people who are already living with cancer, just how I was. And yet, in a world where cancer is an epidemic, my story continues to give inspiration to those who listen to it. Because, hey, so many people may have had cancer, but then, despite that, my story is inspirational because of the specific elements it brings. So you can say, oh, how many people really have cancer? Lots and lots of people. That number is in millions, as I shared with you. Nothing spectacular there. But how many people go through cancer and decide to start living consciously? And you may say, oh yeah, I know plenty of those people. I do too. Brilliant. Let's break it down further. How many people decide to become coaches because of their specific cancer experience and what they learned out of that experience? And you might say, oh, I know a few of those people. I do too. How many people decide to help people become storytellers and speakers and share their story of adversity and overcoming that adversity. And you might say, yeah, I definitely know some of those people. I do too. How many of those people help others be seen and heard because of all these things and this lot of experience that we have been talking about? And you might say, I think I know a couple of people. And my final question to you is, how many of you know somebody who has had a cancer story, managed to survive it, changed their life, started living consciously, now is dedicated to helping others find meaning and joy in their life, helping people be seen and heard, because as an 11-year-old they decided that people shouldn't go through the motions of life without being seen and heard? How many people in this world have this exact same combination? And the answer is zilch, nada. There is just one person who has that combination, and that person is speaking to you on this video here. That person is me. And therefore, despite the fact that there are millions of new cancer cases every year, despite the fact that our world has millions of coaches, despite the fact that there are enough number of storytelling and speaking coaches, there is just one person in this world who does what I do, how I do it, and why I do what I do. And that person is me. And that is the power of my story. And you have a similar power in your story. And therefore, when I go and share my story with my audience like this, whether I'm doing it on a video or whether I'm sharing it from a stage, the combination of what I do, why I do, and how I do it is a powerful, unique combination. And that is why every story is unique. So you may feel that you have experiences that are similar to other people, but actually it's only those experiences that might be similar to other people. What you did with those experiences, the learning that you gleaned, the decisions that you took on the back of those decisions, they were your own. They were unique. They were not ordinary. They were extraordinary. And that is something that I want you to learn from this presentation, from watching this video, that your story is not ordinary. Your story is extraordinary. And when you go out and share that extraordinary story, you communicate your message with clarity, with confidence, because you know that you are the only person in this world who has that unique combination. There is really no need to worry about competition or, oh, there are enough number of storytelling or speaking coaches or wellness coaches or whatever it is that you offer to people. When you go out and share your unique story, then you connect with your audience. Why? Because what you have in your story, nobody else has. And when you share your unique story, people are able to put a face and a persona to that message that they see on social media or that message that they hear on social media. And that is very, very powerful, because when we connect with individuals, that's when they start buying into what we are saying. No matter whether we are putting forth an idea, we are putting forth a product or a service, but if people don't connect with us, they wouldn't even buy from us. And the final thing is, when we go and share our unique story, we just stand out from the crowd. Why? Because there's no one in this world who has the exact same ingredients of the story that you have. So you may be a wellness coach, you may be offering wellness coaching, and there may be a million other coaches who are doing exactly the same thing, but they would still be slightly different from what you offer. Why? Because your story and what makes it your story is absolutely unique. But before you are able to do that, what you would need to do is to go within, go inside, and own that magic. Own the fact that your story is extraordinary, and then only you would have the courage to go out and share your story with the world. So storytelling, people, it starts with ourselves. It starts with going deep within ourselves, because if we don't do that step, then we wouldn't really be able to put our story out there, because we wouldn't believe that it's important enough, if we wouldn't believe it's worthy enough, it's extraordinary enough. And why would people want to hear it? We would always doubt that. So own your magic, own your sparkle, people, because hey, why settle when you can sparkle? If you have any questions about storytelling, you know where to find me on social media. Get in touch and I would love to help you find the extraordinary in your, what you reckon as an ordinary story. So I'll see you around. Take care, guys.